I feel like I was crawling out of a hole. You spend years where you wake up in the morning and every morning the first thing is like, none of my clothes fit. And you just have this like self-deprecating weight on your shoulders of, I'm not the person that I should be.
Welcome to, I guess this is going to be another episode of the Kettlebell Guys podcast, right?
That's right. A special episode.
First in a while, and we're honored to have our guest, Stan Walsh, joining us here.
Stan?
Well, Stan, thanks for joining us, man. We're excited to be able to chat with you. Coming off of your first 16 weeks inside of you shared a really compelling, well, I guess Grant shared a picture with you side by side of your progress pics from the start until 16 weeks. And you just had a comment that I thought was both very funny, but also awesome. I think it was the comment about King Hippo from Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Yeah.
And I made a joke with Grant. I said, that is significantly too old of a joke for Grant to understand because he definitely wasn't alive during Mike Tyson's Punch Out. But I remember as a very little kid, my older brothers used to play Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So I thought that was a hilarious reference. So anyway.
I didn't get the reference. I did not get it. But I loved the before and after photo that you had, Stan. That was hot.
Yeah, that part's good. The joke was good too. But
so Stan, start by just telling us, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Where are you from? Give us a quick rundown.
I mean, I'm employed as a lawyer at Kirkland & Ellis. I'm sort of like Happy Gilmore, where he says, like, I'm a hockey player who's golfing right now. Like, I've always done other things. My degree is in musical theater, and I was an actor for a good decade or so. I ran a plumbing company for a very long time. I own an apple orchard, and I made wine and sold cider in the city for 7 or 8 years.
Amazing.
Now I'm mostly a dad of 3 kids, which is a full-time gig, but I'm making a Halloween movie with my oldest daughter right now, so that's where a lot of my spare time is going. Oh, and also I'm a mega kettlebell athlete, and so that's a big component of my life. But I like to do a lot of different things, but yeah, I work as a lawyer, so in my lawyer office.
Love that. Did you sell wine and cider at the Green City Market by any chance when you used to do it?
Never any markets, but I mean, I was probably in, 50 to 100 retail and restaurant places in Chicago, some in Michigan as well, but mostly in Illinois because I self-distributed mostly. So,
what was the name of the cider?
Overgrown Orchard.
Overgrown Orchard.
I was a big cider guy. Maybe remember that, Grant, back in the day at the end of CPG?
What do you mean you were a big cider guy? Come on.
We could talk for hours about apples if you want to switch to that. You want to know about heterozygoity, and we can talk about.
Ooh.
We'll do that later.
I sold apples for Seedling, the farm, which is, they've got a stall at the Green City Market. They do smoothies, but they do cider as well. So at one point in time, I knew at least 20 varieties of apple. Yeah. I don't have that anymore. All I know is John Gold was my favorite. That's what I can remember.
Yeah, I grow mostly what are called spitters, where if you take a bite, you spit them out because the acid and tannin levels are so high. But those are the qualities that you want in aging something for a long period of time, like a wine type product. It gives it ageability, body. And that parallels nicely into kettlebells.
Yeah, it does. This is a wine podcast where we talk about kettlebells.
Segueing here. I'm sure there's a connection. I'll come up with it later, I promise.
So Stan, can you give a quick overview of how long have you been with KT now? What results have you seen? And then we'll kind of go back in time to, where you were.
No, this is probably a good data point. I don't know how often you check in with someone like immediately after the KT 16 week. I mean, I think I just started, I'm in week 1 of the mastery program. So I just finished my 16 weeks. So, I think sometimes you see pictures of guys who have been around for a while and are fully jacked. I'm not fully jacked, but I am.
You're pretty jacked.
I did go through, as someone pointed out in the app, a transformation, and excited to be through that phase. But yeah, just past my 16 weeks and a newly hatched from my little KT chrysalis into this beautiful butterfly you see before you.
Where were you when you started and where were you now, just high level results wise?
Weight, I was like 225 King Hippo shaped, and I think at the end I was somewhere around like 188. So, a little over 35 pounds, just sort of you could see the graph on, it's just this, just a down slope for 16 weeks. And strength wise, I think a lot of your guys probably are doing this program because they used to look different. They want to get back to who they were. And I go back to everyone's photo from their wedding day, or, 10 years ago, not even like your senior high school, although 10 years ago for Grant maybe was senior in high school, but like 10 years ago, I think a lot of guys were fit. I was 180 at my wedding, but a lot of I think I'm probably the strongest I've ever been. I mean, maybe definitely. I mean, we don't bench press, so maybe I've historically benched more, but I certainly have never looked like I look now, strength wise. So, kind of best shape of my life at 46 years old.
Love that. Let me ask you this in terms of the strength aspect. How do you feel that? I mean, you say, I feel the strongest I've ever felt, or maybe I am the strongest. Is that from like the amount of weight that you're able to put up with a kettlebell? Is that from how you feel throughout the rest of your day? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one is just generally how one looks and how you carry yourself about. When you sort of have like a runner's energy and you've been doing more cardiovascular type things, fitness is usually measured by just like how fast you run or something like that. And it's not necessarily something that like catches your eye in a mirror or something like that. Whereas now, it's funny, the kettlebell exercises don't ever seem to target any particular muscle group. Like obviously you use your back a lot, but I never thought, like, I wouldn't say there's anything tricep related that we do at all. And like one day I'm looking in the mirror and it looks like there's like a dead mouse in my arm. And I'm like, what in the serious hell is this? And then all of a sudden, like, like that goes up into shoulders, like things that you normally neglect, and delts, and like just like this general flow of like arm. And you're like, good Lord, that's like definitely better than these sort of like, I'm just going to do 7,000 curls for 3 years and isolate one muscle. Just this like fact of getting up and getting down and moving around. You just feel good like everywhere. And that's, that's again, I haven't said it yet, but one of the draws of the program is, in the boxes that it checked for me is that it's not some gimmicky sort of like isolation type physical exercise, that it really is something that's about a practical muscle development, in that you're moving muscles and body dynamically and getting up and getting down. And it shows, because the end product is just like growth everywhere. Like you just really feel like there's not a hole in your physique. I wondered that early on, like, we don't do a lot of exercises. You do swings and get-ups primarily. And it's like, well, is that really capturing all the muscle groups? Am I missing anything here? And is that going to come in later? And if it is, I'd be shocked to learn what it is, because I just feel like from head to toe that like I am just, solid muscle from top to bottom, really. I mean, or at least developing from top to bottom. So that's more what it is.
It's an interesting point of view, because a lot of times guys will come to KT and they'll be like, okay, so like what muscles do you focus on? Tell me like the type of exercises. And you're kind of caught in this like, man, if you haven't done it and experienced it, like getting to a point where you can swing and do get-ups with a 70-pound kettlebell, you don't quite understand what it means to feel like a muscle from head to toe, working your whole body until you go through that journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll say it again, I'm sure, but what draws someone to a program like this, and why I hadn't never really gotten help before, and I'll talk about that too, but is, I think a lot of programs, they seem gimmicky, or I'm just skeptical in general of what it's going to be and how it's going to help me, whether or not, a lot of muscle type things are really about just like looking good in a gym, or they seem to me like, they're just trying to bulk up, or it's just too uber masculine, or it's just not really practical. And a lot of the, the research I've done about longevity and is, when you're 70 years old, can you get up and down from your seat? I think of it a lot like the grandparent test, in that, like, I think a lot of us with kids are very exposed to grandparents and our own children's lives and our friends' children's lives. And there's really two types. There's the grandparents who visit and become a giant benefit to the family, in that they can take the kids and carry them and chase after them if they need to and participate like a parent. And then there's the grandparents who come in and are almost like adding an additional kid to the house, where you have to watch them and feed them, and they're actually more of a hindrance than a help. Like, great, I didn't have enough to do this weekend, now I got to watch grandma. And so a lot of my, what type of workout, what do you want to see? Do you want to have big pecs? Do you want to have big quads? Like, what do you want? Like, no, I want to not be a piece of shit grandparent, is sort of like that's what muscle group is that. And I always, I told Grant this when we first talked. I had been tinkering around a bit with kettlebells, just because the allure of them made sense to me. Just like swimming as the other one, just this sort of like dynamic body movement where muscle groups are working together. It just seems like a much more practical form of exercise. not to knock the isolating exercises, but look, I'm not going to spend, 22 hours a week in a gym where I'm like getting down to the, like, did I get the upper third of my bicep this week? Like, I just need like, some not heavy lifting, but I need something that I can do for 40 minutes, 4 times a week that like takes care of all of that. And this is like the absolute perfect exercise for checking that box.
Love that. By the way, that's going to be our tagline now. Building not piece of shit grandparents.
I try to not say piece of shit a lot in this and swear, and I feel like I'm already like putting dollars.
Our podcast
swear
is definitely R-rated. Don't worry.
All right.
Say whatever you want. So you had dabbled with kettlebells a little bit, but what was where did you start from a kettlebell perspective? Because you gave us the weight stats, but when you were training, did you know get-ups? Have you done swings? What weights were you using and where are you at now?
I didn't even know what a get-up was. I have a friend who would post like reels on Instagram about his kettlebell workouts. And he's one of those guys that does like, a full-on, routine of like spinning and flip. Like, it's more like a dance than a kettlebell workout. And so I would just go to the gym in this building here and just like Google kettlebell workout or exercise, and then just pick like 2 or 3 and try to do them, completely uneducated and inefficiently, but they were swing related type things. But I'd never heard of a get up, never done that. And so all of that was starting from scratch. I was swinging like 50 pounds when I started. But, again, that's like 3 sets of 10 or something like that in a gym. My normal bell now that I swing is an 80 pound. I don't know everyone does kilograms, and is that 36?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, a 36. Well, and I can do get-ups on a 36 now. I've done probably 3 or 4, all successfully. I have an 88 pound bell. And I haven't tried lifting that yet. I would imagine I could, but I just haven't done it yet.
Savage.
We'll take our time for that one. That's badass though, man. I mean, that's serious progress in less than 5 months, starting from scratch, because you didn't just lose 35 pounds, but you went from not doing one of the most complex and I think beneficial functional exercises around, which is the Turkish get up. And now you do it with a weight that, that's heavy, man. Trained a lot of men. 80 pounds heavy bell.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm not one that's necessary. I mean, obviously, I think what gets clicks on Instagram and what draws people to your program, you're not leading with like, hey, we've got a great dietary component that you can, like our nutrition program. It's like, look at these bells and look at what you're going to get. Even though I think maybe sometimes those are a bit siloed where, you could just lose weight if you wanted to, or you could just build muscle if you wanted to. But again, this is like what I really want. I didn't want to just lose weight. I wanted to build the body contemporaneously with that would be something that would last me, into grandparent phase. And so, and the way that you do it is, that's really, I think, a lot of the magic of this program is because, if that's how it's not a gimmick, right? Because if you're just putting some like caloric deficit on someone and like malnutritioning them over 16 weeks, they're not going to have the strength to participate in a weightlifting program that's going to equally transform them in the other direction into like a strong muscular person. So you have to have like an actual functional, sustainable nutrition component. And on top of that, you have to have a workout component that marries well with that and that can be sustainable in connection with it. And I just feel like it just worked so perfectly together that I always had tons of energy. I never worked out too hard where I couldn't get up the next day and do it. Like everything is like, Grant told me that early. I almost passed out when I was like, how often are we working out here? Is this going to be a 7-day a week, 90-minute? Like, am I going to get killed here? Is this boot camp? And he's like, it's 4 workouts a week that are 30 to 40 minutes. And I was like, yeah, okay, come on. No, it's not. And then it's like, he's like, and honestly, we don't even push. It's not supposed to be a 9 or a 10. It's, a 7, a 7 or 8 at most, because, you got to get up the next day and do it again. And that, it's completely true. Like none of these workouts, you get done and you might be like, geez, that killed me. But 30 minutes later, you're feeling great, making a shake and getting on with it. And it's just a testament to like how well the program works. The nutrition and workout components work well together.
So Stan, a lot of times guys listening to these podcasts, especially the client interviews, they might not have any idea what any of that means, right? They might not have any idea what it means to do it. Like you said, you didn't know you had never done a get up, right? Some guys might not have any idea what a get up is. They don't know what it's like to do an 80-pound Turkish get up or an 80-pound swing. A lot of times guys come to KT, they just know that they don't like where they are, right? And so can you go back in time and kind of help us understand and help the guys who are maybe listening to this understand, like, where were you when you were looking for something like KT? Where did you find yourself? What were you feeling? What were you looking for? If you can kind of go back in time a little bit.
Yeah. So the first part of that is a discovery moment of I need help, which if someone's listening to this, that hasn't joined KT, it's probably because they need help too. And the way that I knew that I needed help is that, look, I'm one that believes that, weight is just a number. It doesn't equate to happiness. You can be any weight, people are different. That wasn't the case with me. And I don't think that's the case with a lot of your guys. I used to be something different. And this is what I told my coach, Mike, is that I don't feel like the transformation program was climbing a mountain where I reached a peak. I feel like I was crawling out of a hole. I was sitting at the bottom of a hole, like the movie Get Out when you're in the sunken place. And my whole life, you spend years where you wake up in the morning and every morning the first thing is like, none of my clothes fit. And you just have this like self-deprecating weight on your shoulders of I'm not the person that I should be. It's not that it's anyone's fault, and we can talk about that later, that life sort of pushes you in that direction at a certain point. But I was just really, really unhappy. And then someone like me, and again, I think this is another through line with a lot of your guys, is that they feel like they can do things on their own. They're generally intelligent and successful. Look, losing weight isn't some deep state secret. You eat fewer calories. If you want to gain muscle, you do exercise. But look, if it was so easy, then how had I been failing so miserably for years on end? And you get to the point like, look, if you could have done it, you would have done it by now. So you need help. And that's just the bottom line is like, why don't you get help? And what I said earlier is I think the reason that I didn't get help is probably an equal measure of skepticism and just thinking that like too many things out there are gimmicks, not having faith in something enough to make it a sustainable part of my life. Like, look, a gimmick, like maybe someone can convince you in some sort of gimmicky fashion to go on a caloric deficit for 16 weeks where you lose weight, but that's not going to be sustainable. Week 17, it's going to turn around and all of a sudden you're just going to go back to who you are. When you join a program, what you have to think of it more like is a relationship, like a long-term relationship where I want to do something that will last me, again, into grandparent phase. It's an additive component of your being. That's something that can carry with you long-term. And in that way, it can't be gimmicky because you're not going to want to do a gimmick for more than a few weeks before it loses its flair. And it has to be sustainable. It can't be some sort of crash or some sort of you can never have alcohol again, or you can never do this again, or you can never do that. So immediately looking at this program, when it came up on Instagram one day, I was like, oh, kettlebells. I really like kettlebells. I know that gives me the muscular sort of build that I'm driving for, the sustainable, like successful grandparent build. And when we started talking more about the nutrition component and I was looking at it, it's like, look, this is like super, super sensible. It's nothing in here is crash related. It's all about like making small modifications and just taking some of the unconscious variables of your diet and making them conscious. And all of a sudden, it's just like these baby nuanced changes that have insane effects immediately. And so again, I realized I needed help. I saw KT. KT appealed to me because it seemed to me that it was both efficacious, like that it would actually work, but that it was sustainable. It was sustainable, something that I could like vibe with for, forever. Grant said that we'll all get up and do swings on the day we're going to die. So hopefully that's the case, So anyway, that's what happened. And obviously, like you guys are a large part of that. I had heard good things about Chicago Primal and was aware of it. And you both seem to like, you're gregarious and drink the Kool-Aid and don't seem like, that you're just some corporate face that you're like living this. And so just everything just seemed sound to me. And it turned out that it was all true. Boom.
Love that.
Wow.
Damn, that was a good answer. Can you start selling KT for us?
Mic drop.
On it.
That was really good, man. Thank you for sharing that. I love hearing the idea of like I wanted to find something that could become like a relationship, because that's I think where a lot of guys are not. They're maybe not there yet, but the guys who are there are the ones who really grasp on and understand like this is a long game. It's like I'm not. Yes, I want to get a result. Yes, I want to lose weight and I want to feel stronger. But like that's just the starting point. I've never heard anyone talk about this idea of I wasn't trying to climb a mountain. I was climbing out of a hole. That's like a real Holy shit, that's well said. Because
Well,
I
think
think that's
about
where
it.
a lot of men are.
Because when you get out of the hole, you're back at ground zero, which is like a sustainable
Right.
thing. If you're climbing a mountain, you know, that's almost the next phase. Like if you get incredibly, insanely jacked over 16 weeks, like you're not always going to be there. There's going to be highs and lows. Like you just pick a
Amen.
different mountain and you're going to, that's what the journey is for me now, is figuring, you know, what mountains do I want to climb and how do I want to keep this journey going and keep it interesting. But the climbing out of the hole bit, the transformation bit, is really trying to get you back to the point where you're not embarrassed to see a friend that you haven't seen in a few years who comes out of town, who comes into town that you haven't seen, because they know they're going to think you look like a fat piece of shit. Or you're not afraid to take family pictures again, or like you can go into your closet and like, thank God I didn't throw like this shirt away that I bought 8 years ago. The sheer wardrobe gain, like the dollar value of clothing gain that I've gotten is like worth triple what I paid you guys. So that's a huge boon that nobody ever really thought of.
Man.
So would you say that a lot of your feeling of the hole that you were in, was it a lot driven by like your persona of yourself and kind of that, I don't know if shame is the right word, but like you mentioned, you know, I would be embarrassed to see my friend and I wouldn't want to see myself in family photos. Was that the main thing that was?
Yeah. So, you know, it's both a physical and a psychological component. And I think all of the guys probably can relate to this. The physical ones come first. Okay. And all of the arrows, this is about a momentum shift. So all of the arrows when you're in your 40s start to point in the same wrong direction. You're getting older, so you know your body's not as strong as it used to be, so exercise quality maybe starts to go down just based on that. And then all of a sudden you start to gain some weight because you've had 3 kids and you don't have enough time, and then your exercise quality suffers because you're a little heavier, and then you're not exercising as frequently. So when you do exercise, it's not as much or as beneficial. And so the exercise quality goes further down the hill. And then you start to notice that and you try to overcompensate for it. And then you somehow end up injuring yourself, or like, you know what, I'm going to run 10 miles today because I'm disgusting. And then you tweak something and then you're further down the hill. And then all of a sudden with your gained weight, all of a sudden your blood pressure starts to creep up. And, you know, I didn't have any serious medical issues, thank God, but I'm sure a lot of guys do, where it's like all of a sudden they're probably starting to take some meds and they're in a whole new lifestyle that they never wanted to be in. And it's this sort of domino effect where you have these constant reminders, again, as you're like walking into the closet and a bunch of clothes that don't fit. And then the fat clothes that you bought still don't fit because now you're fatter than your fat clothes. And then you got to take your fat pills, and then you got to go into look in a mirror, and then you got to walk into, and it's just this thing that, like, again, maybe some people are completely fine with this, and I'm not trying to fat shame anyone or anything like that. I'm just saying, for me personally, it was just like a constant reminder of someone that I didn't want to be. Mm-hmm. And so then you're like intermittent fasting because you're like trying to skip meals, but it's not working. And then like if you have kids and you're sort of, you know, empathetic at all or thinking about the future, then all of a sudden you start having these doomsday thoughts of like, you know, am I shortening my lifespan? Am I like jeopardizing my time I get to spend with my children? And like all of these sort of things start to compile over years, and you can really get to a dark place psychologically along with that. And then when you're in a dark psychological place, then maybe you're not motivated to work out, and so you're going even further down that hill. And so all that's to say is that, like, I get it. At this age, through no fault of your own, just having a family that you love and care about, like, you've just happened to slide incredibly deeper down this hole. It's not like I was like eating an extra pizza a week or anything. I felt like I was eating less and I was still working out. You know, it's just like you're just not doing it right, you know, and nothing seems to be going your way and you're very frustrated with it. And the thing about KT is that it is an immediate momentum shift. Okay, like, the day after you start, your weight starts to go down. I'll bring this up. The day after you start, your weight goes down. You start to feel better about yourself. If you have an iPhone or an Apple Watch, immediately you start to get like, your weekly, your VO2 max has gone up. You're trending up on this. You're trending up on this. You're trending up on this, and you're getting like constant reminders of things that you're doing better at. People start saying things. You start fitting in older clothes. Like every single aspect, all those arrows just turn around and go in the other direction. You make so many gains just as like your form gets perfected over a week or two. Like instantly you're lifting heavier bells. You're getting, plaudits from your coach, like all of these things. And like, that's what, like psychologically, it's like flipping a switch. Having this support team, there for you. I'm just trying to bring this up here. I mean, just like, look, this, you just see like, boom, like all of a sudden, like, hey, you know, and what's a better motivator than success, right?
Right.
Because you're like, now I have further belief in this program. It actually is working. I feel great. And all of the things are like going my way all of a sudden. And it's like it really is like an instant shift in mental and physical health. And just statistically, I haven't gotten a blood panel since then, but like even early on, like a month in, I went to get some small procedure and the doctor was like taking my blood pressure and was like, whew, that's impressive. And I was like, what? My blood pressure? What are you? And I looked and it was like, I mean, all of that gone instantly. Like, and I'm sure right now it's like probably like really, really insane. I just got the Hume scale and like was looking at, stats like body fat percentage. And I was like, this can't be right. Like, this can't be right. But it is.
What did it put you at?
What's that?
What did it put you at, the Hume scale?
I'm at like, it was 11 and 12. I just assumed I'd be like 20. I don't know. I don't know anything about body fat percentage, but I can't possibly be 12%. It's got to be wrong. I don't know.
Maybe. Stan, do you feel like you could, what do you think? So all these things you're talking about, you had immediate success. You just showed the thing that you said, boom on for guys listening to this. You showed your weight chart. Your weight chart was just like straight down, obviously, from where you started to where you are now. If you were to narrow down like the few keys to success for you inside of KT, what do you think they've been?
So I'm one who's sort of self-motivated. I understand that probably a lot of guys need a lot of encouragement potentially to like get up and do it. Like there was never a doubt in my mind, barring injury, that I would get my 4 checks each week, that I would complete my exercises. So for me, I don't need a team to motivate me. I would always be self-motivated. The keys for success for me are believing in the program. Like if I had sniffed out any sort of like I said, this is gimmicky or like I'm not doing this. Like this doesn't make sense. These guys don't know what they're talking about. Like I thought I asked questions mostly about the nutrition component in our interview, just because obviously you guys are like great on the workout side, but I didn't know, who was doing the nutrition component of this and what was happening there. And everything, the great motivator for me is that everything was insanely sensible. Like everything made great sense and worked, every component of it. And it's not just, we've talked about lifting and nutrition, but like getting the body up and moving around, like just the whole, fare una passeggiata, like going on a constitutional, just like adding walks and like getting out at night. And like that has both psychological and physical benefits to it. The water drinking component, like all of these things seem simple and straightforward, but just putting them all together, they all, there's like a symbiotic relationship between them. And I think they all worked together. So the motivator for me was really trust in the program. And then I also thought that there was a really deft touch in general about, I felt like your goal was always to customize something just was success for your guys. Like, with Mike, my coach, like I feel like there's probably some people who have a lot more communication. I'm not someone who needs like a lot of guidance or a lot of like, oversight or hand holding, but I feel like, again, he had like an extremely deft touch where he's, checking in, like very, very listening. He's listening and he's very, empathetic towards like what each individual guy might need. Like maybe somebody needs a call a week or 2 calls a week. Maybe someone needs 1 a month. And sometimes maybe someone just needs like a cheerleader or a friend to text with, and that's sort of more what we have. We just sort of like text, and then he's checking in to make sure that, that the technique and form and that everybody's staying safe and that. But like the fact that everyone here it's not some like, it doesn't feel like a bro-y gym. There's nothing that like turns me off as far as like the demeanor of the program. It's all like, look, we all have the same goal. Like we want to do whatever we can do to make you successful, and whatever you need, like we got it. You want someone to drill sergeant you, I'll drill sergeant you. You want someone to, send funny gifts to, like I'm there too, like whatever a guy needs, like you're open to receive that and you respond appropriately. And like, and I think that's unusual. Like there's like a really good sensitivity to what each person needs. And I think that's like maybe not something that you guys really think about, or maybe it just comes natural, but it is unusual and unexpected. And I think it was a big part of it for me too, is that it just feels very comfortable knowing that I'm someone who maybe has different needs when it comes to, or a different personality than potentially other people who do things like this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but you mentioned belief as being your own internal belief about the efficacy of the program being kind of your key, right? Is like, once I believed, I was able to go and execute the things that were laid out for me. Because you didn't, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you didn't do anything different than what we just lay out, right? I mean, follow the nutrition plan, get your 4 workouts a week, get your steps in.
I didn't do anything different.
You just followed the protocol, right?
I just followed the protocol.
Right. Which is like, we always try to get that across to guys. It's like, it's work. You have to do the work. The work's not hard. Well, the work's not complicated. The work's very simple. It can be perceived as hard. I mean, it is more than if you're not doing anything at all. But like, right. I wonder if that's the key thing. Because we always talk about this. Like, why do some guys like Stan, why are they able to put it together and be successful, even though they're busy, they've got a demanding career, they've got 3 kids, like, and other guys in similar situations just can't get it done for some reason. It's like, maybe it's a belief thing. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
I'd be surprised if anybody, I mean, I don't know where people fall out. Again, this is what I told Grant afterward, was like, I was shocked how easy it was, which sounds, I'm not trying to be flippant and I'm not saying that it was easy. The workouts are like very solid. Like you get done with 40 minutes and you're like, man, I feel great. I worked a lot. Like that was good. But 4 40-minute workouts is not a lot. Adding a few steps here and there is like, anybody can do that. So, and then maybe it's the food component that people just aren't into. But I mean, like how hard is it to eat? I mean, I could see with like a 20-year-old, like for instance, when I have a bunch of events, which is rare, but when you have like 4 dinners out or things where you have to eat away from your home, it becomes more difficult. And if you have a lot of social events, I could see like someone like, this just doesn't work for me because I have to have, 4 cocktails a night, 7 times a week. Like, but for me, like I'm mostly home for meals. And so it was super easy. I even had an added hurdle of like, my whole family's vegetarian. So, kids are picky. So I was kind of cooking for myself mostly. So that was even an added hurdle, I suppose, that some people wouldn't necessarily have. But it wasn't insurmountable by any means. I didn't feel like at any point that anything was hard or was taking up more time than, if anything, I was just always shocked at how little, like it's almost like just an easy thing to tack on to your week. Like it's not a huge focal point. Maybe my kids are just so demanding that I don't notice this, but no, it's not an onerous program if you have, a modicum of dedication, I would say.
I mean, without a doubt.
I was working out, like, I mean, not well, but like I would walk into a gym like a couple of times a week or like hop on a Peloton or run outside. Like I was doing things 3-4 times a week anyway. So it's not like that much more of a demand, If someone's completely sedentary and like not working out at all and then going up to 4 40-minute workouts, like maybe that's too much of a shift. I mean, maybe, but like, I think most people give it at least a concerted effort.
Yeah, right. I agree completely.
Without a doubt, the guys who, like Sean said, the guys who get the absolute best results in our program, like you, Stan, are the guys who just followed the protocol. Like they actually follow the protocol, right? Or it's like, we're talking about all these things that Sean said, they're not complicated, but to actually do them and just do them day in, day out, week in and week out, consistently, that's the hard part, right? That's why they talk about like all these, like football, like it's like blocking and tackling. Like you got to do the foundations the right way, then everything else can get, more fun or more complicated. But I think that potentially when guys come into KT who like maybe were in the spot that you were in where it's like, oh, I'm working out. I am working out. Like I am doing stuff the right way. And then they see the protocol that we have to do. And they're like, maybe sometimes they overthink it. And it's like, wait, it can't just be this simple, right? Because the other cool thing about the protocol is that when you follow it as to a T is that you have, you also get very strong. Like getting to a point where you're throwing around 80, 88 pound kettlebells, like your body has no choice but to respond, but to become muscular, but to become fit and athletic. But you can't get to that point where you're asking your body to adapt to an 80 to 88 pound kettlebell unless you actually did the work needed to make that a reality, which is following the protocol, which is the simple stuff. But if you're not willing to do the simple stuff, well, then you're not going to enjoy the fruits of your labor, which is like what the body feels like when you can throw around an 80-pound belt.
I'm with you. I'm surprised anybody, maybe it's a time thing. I mean, I don't know. I usually am insanely busy. But again, 4 times 40 is not a huge time suck. So I don't know. I struggle to see. I mean, maybe people know their personality in general, like walking into something. I don't think a lot of people are like self-identify as a quitter or like a loser or something. But I mean, like,
be surprised
if anybody's like, I mean, I knew right on that I would easily be able to follow this. And again, you're not lying to anyone at all. It is 4 40-minute workouts. And, it's a nutrition program that's not crash based at all. It's just like tweaks and eating like better food. And I ate way more food these last 16 weeks than I have in a very long time. The hardest part of this was eating enough protein. That's the hardest part of this thing, is eating enough protein. So
that's the challenge.
yeah, that's really
my face with enough protein. But that, like, I think you had the perfect combination of things where you self-identified already in this conversation how you were in a hole, and you were able to really label that in a bunch of different ways, which leads me to believe like you really felt it. Like it was really bothering you where you were, and it had been for some time. So you were like, I need to change. I know I need help too, because you laid that out as well, right? Like, I know that I need help. So those are two realizations that guys have to have before they come into this program. I need to change. I need help to change. It's unacceptable where I am, and I know that I can't do it by myself. If they're there, that's a good start. That means that if they can find something they trust, then they can actually put a full effort into it. And once we had your trust, once Mike had your trust, once Grant had your trust, and you made the investment, then you were like, well, the path was cleared. Now I just walk the path. And like, that's all you did.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. That's not all you did. I mean, you obviously put a massive effort in. So kudos to you. But
no, I fully agree that like having that sort of epiphany is a good motivator. But in general, I think the missing component is just what the power of ceremony is, what it's called. Like the fact, like the whole introduction, the way that this is laid out to you when you get sort of like indoctrinated into KT is ceremonial, in that it's supposed to have some sort of like psychological mental switch that puts you in a different mindset. Like when you're on vacation, you experience things differently. It's like once you're a part of a group and you've like subscribed to something and signed on the dotted line, you're now part of this program. Just that I thought was like cathartic to me. Like even walking out of this office the day that I signed up with Grant, I was like, I made a commitment to do something. And I feel like even if you hadn't had the epiphany, just that like commitment moment of like joining something and making the decision that you're going to change your life should be like, even without the epiphany, I'm saying, like, of knowing that you need help, which maybe I didn't at that point in time, but just like committing to something, I feel like that's what pushes or should push a lot of people over the line and give them the momentum to like start the program. And then, like I said, the fact with these like initial momentum shifts of like weight melting off and everything going in the right direction, like it's just becomes a roller coaster that's like impossible to get off. And you're just like, every day is a positive. So yeah, I'm perplexed as to how everyone doesn't share that experience.
Yeah, so are we, dude. So are we. But certainly it is so great to be able to speak with someone. And obviously a lot of guys do succeed in the program, or else we wouldn't exist, frankly. But
yeah,
it's always awesome to hear, because every guy has a little bit of a different experience on where they were and what, how they executed and why they thought it was beneficial. But it seems to be a pretty common theme for us when we talk to guys who are successful in our program, and they're like, yeah, I just followed the protocol. I just did what you guys laid out. But I love hearing it from you. You were like, nothing was a lie. It's like, it's actually what it was described to me in the sales call. And then it was what was described to me when I met Mike. And it's like, that's important to us. And so I greatly appreciate you saying that, because our authenticity is something that we work hard on. And just like being honest with, this is what it takes. It's not complicated. Just do this.
If I were in your shoes, my biggest fear would be like confidence in the program. Like, am I selling people on something that works? And that's like, I almost like empathize with you through the success of this program and like sigh relief on your behalf of like, if you actually just follow this program, it completely, absolutely 100% works. Like beyond a shadow of a doubt works with no tweaks whatsoever. And there wasn't even a hint of any sort of like adverse imbalance. Like there was never a risk of injury. I never felt like I pushed myself too hard. I never felt like I was like starving. I never felt depleted in any way. It was just like from start to finish, follow it. Everything felt great. Everything worked. Boom. So it's I can't imagine. I don't know why there aren't a million copycats of this. Like it just seems too simple. Like it's like, this is like, it's such a perfect formula. Like, why isn't everybody doing this? Like, how are you guys not getting bought for like $200 million by a private equity firm and then spun out all over the country? Like, why is this not the fad diet, one that actually works? Like I don't know. Maybe they'll come knocking on your door soon, but I don't know. Totally worked. So lucky me, I guess.
Man,
beautiful thing.
Well, I know that we're going to run out of time with you here, Stan. You got to leave here pretty soon.
I do got to run. Yeah.
We usually have a couple of like fast, quick questions we ask guys at the end of the pod. I don't even have my notes in front of me, but I know one of them was, if you could only use one kettlebell, one size kettlebell weight for the rest of your life, what size would that be?
I grew such an affinity towards the 53, but I think right now I'd say the 70 pound. Although I'm sorry, this is a rapid fire and here I am talking. The 80 is so much better because the window is bigger that it just sits better on your arm. So maybe like I'll just step like a couple months into the future when I'm swinging the 80 around easier and pick that one because my calluses will thank me for going with the bigger window one. All right, 80.
80 it is. Okay, I don't know that this is one, but if you can only do swings or get-ups the rest of your life, which one are you doing?
Get-ups. Why? Because doing a lot of swings can get monotonous and get-ups are more fun.
Yeah.
Love that.
We agree on that.
And you kind of answered this in the last little rant you had, but if someone was on the edge of joining Kettlebell Transformation and they had the natural skepticism that you said that you had back in the day before you ever even came into KT, a natural skepticism of gimmicks or whatever it may be, what would you tell that person?
I'd show them the picture and say it works. I would say, number one, you need help. You're not listening to this unless you actually need help and you want to be someone different. And two, I can tell you 16 weeks in, it completely transformed me without doing anything but following what these guys said. And there was never a moment along the way that I had any doubt or anything other than full confidence and motivation. So do it. I mean, if someone showed me that picture, the before and after, and said, like, would you pay $5,000 for this in 16 weeks or whatever the price was, I would immediately say yes. And so would anyone listening to this. Unfortunately, on day one, you can't show someone what they're going to look like 16 weeks into the future, but you can show them what other people who did nothing but follow the program looked like 16 weeks into the future. So you can tell them that they should expect the exact same result, assuming they just do the work.
Man,
it's beautiful. Well done.
Thank you, Stan.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
It's really good, dude. Some sound bites that we got from that one, man. You're a well-spoken man. No wonder you're in that job that you're in and making movies and building companies. You had the gift of gab, man. Did I hear you speak Italian at some point during that call?
A little bit.
You did.
We don't have a word for it. Constitutional, I guess, is it's, well, who is the president? It's like a walk, but a walk is more than just the exercise. It's like the mental component of going on a walk.
So true.
Passeggiata is what it's called in Italian, but like a passage. It's almost like a, but anyway, the walking for me, like the 10 o'clock walks around the neighborhood are like really a highlight of my life right now. Like there's nothing better than sneaking out after the kids go to bed and then getting a few miles in and seeing the neighborhood at night, especially with Halloween season coming up. I think it'll be even more fun.
I also thought what you said about ceremony and about like when you join this program, it's like this ceremonial experience of like you are made this commitment and you're making this commitment to the way with which these guys live their life, and like take care of their body and their mentalities around it. It's like this ceremonial introduction into like, all right, I'm going to start taking care of my body like that.
I learned that from a good philosopher named Oprah Winfrey. It was actually, I'm not even joking, this is like decades ago, but the institution of marriage, a lot of people can be like cynical about it, but the actual wedding ceremony, like those ceremonies are meaningful, like psychologically to people. And like burning pictures of like someone or like doing things, actually holding a ceremony can help you psychologically move on from something. And the pageantry around the signing up for this program, I feel like is, it gives you that sort of ceremony that makes the switch in your mind, or at least it did for me. But anyway, I'll let you go. I got to go pick up a kid. So
amazing.
Appreciate you very much, man. Thank you for spending the time with us.
No, anytime. You guys like probably literally saved my life, or at least gave me a lot more years on it. So I owe you more than this.
Yeah, you're welcome, King Hippo. Who are you now? Now you're the guy in front.
Now he's Mike Tyson.
Oh, it's not Mike Tyson.
We're way back now.
I can't remember.
Above Glass Joe, but I don't know.
You're the guy with the rose in his mouth.
Oh yeah, Don Flamenco. Yeah,
Don Flamenco. You are, given that Italian that you were just speaking.
There we go. All right, something to shoot for.
Thank you, man.
All right, thanks, guys.